where the Cavs trailed the entire game. Till they tied it up late and won in overtime. They got big games from two bench players, specifically Tristan Thompson, who, has been struggling for the last month or so. Gave them great minutes last night, led the team in scoring in overtime, and helped slow down Mr. Valanciunas, who had been killing the Cavs on the inside. Jalen, is there anything you want to say to the people?
Anybody that felt like LeBron James carried too much of a burden against the Indiana Pacers, that will not be the case in this series.
Doesn't look like it.
That's evidenced by game one. I told you so. And by the way, let me do something that a lot of people don't do. Give props to Tyronn Lue. Because remember in the previous game, we were like, oh, he started Tristan. This game, he brought him off the bench.
All right, now we got some Lowry here. LeBron guarding him, essentially erasing the dude. Those guys are being paid. They are Toronto's stars. What is happening to them right now, and what do you do to get them into game two ready?
DeMar DeRozan, he didn't make a three-point shot, and he didn't have high-volume free throw attempts. That's when he's at his best. Kyle Lowry did a really good job of distributing the basketball. He had 10 dimes, but he didn't have a notable performance from three. But I'm looking at OG Anunoby and Serge Ibaka. They were pedestrian up front. Neither were able to make it in double-figure scoring. They have to make LeBron James and J.R. Smith work. They combined for 4 rebounds. That's unacceptable.
That's not good. And let's go back to LeBron for 1 second. You mentioned it earlier. The shooting night for him wasn't great, 1 of 8 from 3, but doesn't matter. He still finished with a triple-double. He had 26, 11, and 13. This team was supposed to be tired. LeBron himself said he was burnt. You get a win like this on the road in Toronto. How much does that destroy the confidence of the Raptors?
As somebody that's lived in Toronto, it really devastates their team and their fan base. They're going to still be enthusiastic about the game. But when the best player in the league comes and he's dominant versus your squad, they all wear the same suits, and then he gets to go hang out with Drake. What a time to be alive.
Think he still hung out with Drake?
Of course.
That's the enemy.
They won.
By the way, they wore the suits post-game. I think that was a new twist. They're 2-2 with the suits.
You hate the suits.
No, I don't love the suits. You have a telestration, like a telestration?
I do.
Telestration.
And I'm going to take everybody deeper into the box score. So we look at the final result and we like, man, the Raptors lost. How did it happen? They were playing good basketball. Look at this.
The whole time.
They have the ball. They're on a fast break. And Kyle Lowry, their point guard, let's see what kind of decision he's going to make here. So as we get into the front court, I'm going to stop it. Now, Kyle Lowry, while he's an all-star guard, he's not the fastest. He's not the most explosive. And right now, he's not making the best decision. George Hill does a great job of playing without fouling, walling him off. LeBron James understands he's on the left side. He may have to jump off with the right leg. I can make a play on this. So now Kyle Lowry realized, I'm stuck. So what does he do? He turned the basketball over. Now watch this. Now watch LeBron James assess the floor. This guy is a wizard with the basketball. Look at this. LeBron James on a break. All of a sudden, boom, boom. He surveys the field. And in football, they call this passing people open. Watch this. He's going to feed J.R. Smith. And all you have to do is catch and bang, bang. And then look at Bron down low. Bug on the windshield. Van Vliet, get off me, dog. I don't play those games.
Van Vliet tried,
Get off me, dog.
He tried.
I ain't trying to play those games.
Van Vliet
wanted it. And then now it's the NBA. Hold me back.
No, I think Van Vliet was ready.
Yeah, Van Vliet was ready, and he thought about the situation.
Probably not.
And he wasn't as ready.
No.
When he realized it was LeBron James and he's 6'8", 260 pounds.
It just looked unfair if you're watching it.
Yeah, it's an unfair fight, no doubt about it.
It's an unfair fight. We had a few of them, and that just means we're in the playoffs, and it's getting chippy, ladies and gentlemen. Speaking of, tomorrow night, a special edition.
Yes.
Early game, 6 Eastern, game 2 between LeBron and the Cavs and the Raptors. And just for you guys, we will have an NBA countdown at 5, so you can get caught up. It's always on the app as well.
And so let's talk about that guy. Back with some football conversation, and Damian Woody is here to do that with us. Yesterday, it was Des Bryant's former quarterback, Tony Romo, speaking of all places at a U.S. Open qualifier, who told the media Dez is a good teammate and no team should be worried about him being an issue in the locker room. We know there were questions about him kind of both on and off the field. So he's been a free agent since April 13th. Why, in your opinion, is Dez Bryant not on a team right now?
Well, I think number one, a lot of teams wanted to wait till the draft to add the drafted players, and I'm assuming that Dez is going to be on a roster pretty soon. But listen, to dive deeper in this, what's fascinating is we've been saying now Dez's number's been dropping down. And what's crazy is when you have Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield, you would think a receiver like Dez, his numbers would actually go up, but they've been just steadily dropping down since he has been on the roster. So that's a sign right there that shows you this is a declining player right now. Regardless of what Tony Romo says, when you have a running back like Ezekiel Elliott, you're supposed to be putting up big-time numbers, and he hasn't been doing that.
Yeah, I think I think it's fair to point out both the on-field and the off-the-field stuff, and the Cowboys did him no favors. The timing of when they released him was terrible. Now, the Steelers, Ben Roethlisberger was asked about the Steelers drafting his potential replacement in Mason Rudolph, and his response is that Rudolph is going to have to wait because he, Ben, plans on playing 3 to 5 more years. Now, this is the same guy who tells us every single year that he's contemplating retirement. He said it as recently as last July. So what do you make of this?
Greeny, I think you notice as well, Big Ben is one of the biggest divas in the National Football League. We've seen time and time again in the offseason, I'm about to, this might be it for me, this year. He said that probably 2 or 3 offseasons in a row now. The fact that now he has a rookie and Mason Rudolph on the roster kind of reminds me of like Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers. Brett Favre didn't feel like he had to take it upon himself to mentor a guy like Aaron Rodgers, and it feels like this is starting to play itself out in Pittsburgh.
But that example may be even better than that, because Favre was also a guy who kept talking about retirement, then he got upset when they drafted his ultimate replacement, and that, I think, is what's happened here with Ben all of a sudden. And quickly, if you're Mason Rudolph, what do you make of this? All of a sudden, wait a minute, he's staying 3 to 5 years? What am I doing here?
You have no control over that. I mean, if you're Mason Rudolph, you're just going to look at, if he helps me, that's great. If he's not, I can't count on the veteran to try to help me ultimately to supplant him. You just got to go out there and do what's asked of you.
One more football story that I thought was somewhat interesting, and it involves the owner of the Jaguars, Shad Khan, who's in the process of buying the legendary Wembley Stadium in London. And he said, Wembley is a great stadium. You want to get it configured to hold the Super Bowl and the World Cup finals. He would? What would you think if the NFL decided to put the Super Bowl in London?
Greeny, the Super Bowl, this is about as American as pie. Imagine, when you talk about Super Bowl, you talk about like flyovers and, the national anthem. Imagine like people in this country watching the game in London and they having the national anthem of the UK. I think people kind of look at that kind of crazy, thinking, wait a minute, this is our game. This is ours. I know the NFL is trying to grow its brand international, but a lot of people in this country feel like this is our sport. It needs to be played on U.S. soil.
Yeah, I think with all the conversation that has begun about patriotism centering around the National Football League, I'm really curious to know what people think. I threw a Twitter poll up, and we'll get back to this topic a little later in the show, so I'd love to hear from you on my Twitter page, @ESPN Greeny. I just asked the question, would you be upset if the NFL played the Super Bowl outside the U.S.? And look at that, D. Wood. We got almost 15,000 votes already, and 75% of people say yes, they would be upset. That does not surprise me at all. But now that everybody watching is aware of the poll, go ahead, log on and vote if you're on Twitter, @ESPN Greeny. Let me know what you think. We'll revisit this a little bit later, and I'll give you my thoughts on whether I think it would be okay or not okay for the Super Bowl to be playing God Save the Queen before Tom Brady plays in another Super Bowl. All right, ESPN's Draft Academy is an 8-part documentary, a personal behind-the-scenes look into the lives of quarterback Sam Darnold, Josh Allen, Minka Fitzpatrick, Shaquem Griffin. The first 6 episodes are available now on ESPN Plus and streaming exclusively on the ESPN app, with the final 2 available May tomorrow. Start your free trial of ESPN Plus today. All right, still to come this morning, a bunch of aces on the mound last night. We have all the highlights, including one guy making his first major league start and absolutely stealing the show. Plus, it only took 130 years, but will a new strategy in the majors completely change the way every baseball game is played? That's next.